Hey everybody, this is Mackenzie from Mackenzie Lemoyne Designs. You can follow me on Instagram at mackenzie.lemoyne.designs. Today I decided I was going to work out my bullet journal spread for my philodendron plant, the kind of go-to guide for philodendron care for dummies. And I decided to make a spread about my new plant and how to care for it because I am the worst, the absolute worst at keeping any plant alive. I want to get better at it. One of my goals for this year is to keep one plant alive, and I think honestly probably what my biggest problem is that I get in these, moods where I want to be surrounded by life and like the bright colors, the variety, and it's very soothing. Like green is one of my favorite colors, and I'm listening to the latest episode of Sinisterhood Pod, and I will link them in the description box below. I decided that I needed to create a method because there's some people that plant care and having plants thrive around them, it comes very naturally to them. But me, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. So I looked up a couple of YouTube videos and Pinterest articles about what your plant is telling you. How often should you water it? How often should you fertilize it? How much light does it actually need? Stuff like that. It's just, there's a lot. And whenever I had bought plants before, they inevitably would always start drooping, or the leaves would start curling, or the leaves would start yellowing or becoming discolored, and I would never see any new growth. So I decided I needed to know really what my plant was telling me whenever it was showing me signs of change, just not the change that I really wanted to see. So I looked up on how, kind of the love language of what your plant is telling you. I knew that I needed to create like a when I'm watering it log for me. This is, you don't have to do this, but this is what I feel like might work, or it might remind me or motivate me to not overdo it, because I think that was my trouble before. I felt like I had to water my plants every day. If they weren't wet, if the soil wasn't wet, then I was killing them slowly. So you really should be watering your plants every 7 to 10 days. And again, this only applies to the Philodendron Brasil, because that's specifically what I looked up for on the how to care guides and stuff. But if your soil is still wet, don't water it. It's as simple as that. It wants to be, in a sunny spot, but don't have the sun, like the sun rays basically just directly on it. I have mine up on a little hanging shelf right by the window, and my window is facing southwest. The light is never directly beaming on the plant, but it does get a nice bounce up of light off of the blinds. What kind of temperatures this plant thrives in? Ideally, you really want it to be in an environment where it's anywhere from 60 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Whenever you do water it, you want to make sure that you water the soil, and you water the soil slowly so the water can penetrate through the soil and you're not dislodging a bunch of the soil as well. Yellowing leaves means that you're giving it too much sun exposure, and that's basically the plant getting sunburned. That means the parts of the plants that can convert the sunlight into food are actually dying, so it's going to become less effective at making its own food. Just move it back or move it to a different part of the room where it doesn't get as much light. Leggy, small, and discolored growth is not enough light, so I don't know what I'm talking about. I absolutely don't know what I'm talking about. Drooping or curled leaves can mean two different areas of this, two completely different things on the spectrum. More or less pay attention to if your soil is dry or wet whenever you're seeing one of these two things. So if your soil is dry and you're seeing drooping and curled leaves, that means that you're underwatering. But if your soil is wet and you're seeing drooping or curled leaves, that means that you are overwatering. And sometimes if you're overwatering, it would probably be best to take it out of the wet soil and repot it with dry soil. Because if you're overwatering, that also increases the chance for mold and mildew growth as well, which can make the plant sick. I saw a lot of variation on how often to fertilize. People were saying they fertilized as often as every 1.5 months, and then some people said they didn't fertilize but every 3 months. So it's really, I feel like that's up to you and how often you want to fertilize. I think I'm gonna try and do the median of what I found, and I'm probably gonna try and fertilize my plant every 2 months, I would say. I think that'll be okay. But I did see that it's better to fertilize more often whenever it's the warm and growing months, but whenever it's like the cold and static months where it's kind of in like a slower hibernation, you don't have to fertilize that often. And propagating is something I've never understood. Like, not that I don't see why you would do it. I understand why you would do it, absolutely. But I've never known how to do it right. And so it's definitely something that I'm going to be researching more. I do want it to look very thick and luxurious. But the gist of it was that you just propagate it by cutting the plant at the node, the stem in water directly, or you can do it by just re-rooting it or inserting it into wet soil. And then one of the things that I was very surprised to find out was that the leaves and the stems are toxic for the Philodendron Brasil. But yeah, that's gonna be like my go-to guide. I have my little log on the left page, and it says, the date, and I'm planning on just checking this like every week or so, but I also want it to kind of be like, oh, this is an accountability, or if I can see like, oh yeah, I was really on top of it checking it every week, for like 2 months, but then I fell off and I didn't check it that often, and that's when it wasn't doing well, or maybe that's whenever it started thriving. Like, I just want to do it because I feel like I'm definitely going to start to see a pattern with that, and it'll hold me more accountable for at least checking on my plant. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye!